In the unforgiving landscapes of 19th century Texas, a powerful and fearsome tribe of warriors struck terror into the hearts of settlers and rival Native American tribes alike. The Comanches. From the early 1800s to the 1870s, their ruthless raids and brutal tactics, including scalping and other forms of mutilation, became the stuff of nightmares for those who dared to cross their path. One legendary Comanche chief, Quanah Parker, led his people with fierce determination and cunning strategy during the tribe's final years of resistance against westward expansion. The Comanches mastered the art of psychological warfare, exploiting the sheer terror induced by their grisly methods to demoralize and subdue their enemies. Scalping, a practice that dates back centuries, was but one tool in their arsenal of fear. The Comanches were known to leave mutilated bodies in their wake, ensuring that the horror of their raids would linger long after they had vanished into the vast plains. As the famous author Cormac McCarthy wrote in Blood Meridian, the wrath of the hurricane and the presence of the night were meant to be evocative of the wrath of God. The Comanches, in their relentless pursuit of power, seem to embody this divine wrath. Journey with us into the merciless world of the Comanche raids, where fear was a weapon wielded with deadly precision. Welcome to the diary of Julius Caesar. Comanche Chronicles, unraveling the warrior legacy. The Comanche people have a rich and intricate history that dates back to their origins in the Great Basin region of North America. By the early 1700s, the Comanche had migrated to the southern plains, an area that spans across parts of modern-day Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Kansas. This remarkable journey was fueled by the acquisition of horses from Spanish colonists, which transformed their society and enabled them to become one of the most formidable Native American tribes in the region. The Comanches' newfound mobility allowed them to adapt their hunting methods and expand their territory, hunting buffalo and engaging in trade with other tribes and European settlers. As their power and influence grew, the warrior culture of the Comanche people developed into a force to be reckoned with. They became known as the Lords of the Plains, revered for their skill and prowess in both battle and horsemanship. A famous quote from a Comanche chief, 10 Bears, illustrates their connection to the land and their way of life. "I love the land and the buffalo and will not part with it." Central to the Comanche way of life was the family unit, which consisted of extended families living together in small nomadic bands. These bands would come together for large gatherings and ceremonies such as the annual buffalo hunt or the sun dance, a religious ceremony performed to honor the spirits and ensure prosperity. The Comanche had a strong sense of kinship, and social standing was determined by one's ability to contribute to the welfare of the group, with warriors and hunters holding particularly high status. Gender roles within Comanche society were well defined, with women responsible for managing the household, preparing food, and tending to children. Men, on the other hand, were the primary hunters and protectors, with a focus on honing their skills in both horsemanship and combat. Women were also known to participate in some aspects of warfare, particularly in the aftermath of a battle, and they played a significant role in the care and treatment of captives. The Comanches' warrior culture was deeply rooted in their belief system and their respect for the natural world. They believed in a pantheon of spirits and supernatural beings, with the Great Spirit, or Numina, presiding over all. Warriors would seek guidance and protection from these spirits through rituals and ceremonies, often employing the use of sacred objects and powerful talismans. The Comanche Code of Honor, a set of unwritten rules governing their conduct in battle, emphasized bravery, loyalty, and the importance of protecting their people and way of life. As the Comanche expanded their territory through a series of aggressive raids on neighboring tribes and European settlements, they developed a reputation for their ferocity and ruthlessness. Raids were carried out for various reasons, including the acquisition of horses, goods, and captives, as well as to exact revenge or assert dominance over contested territories. One particularly famous Comanche leader, Quanah Parker, was a key figure in many of these raids, leading his warriors with a combination of skill, cunning, and charisma. The Comanche warrior culture was not without its darker aspects, however. Some captives taken during raids were subjected to harsh treatment, or even the taking of one's own life. Despite this, many captives, particularly women and children, were integrated into the tribe and became valued members of the community. As European settlers continued to push westward and encroach upon Comanche lands, tensions escalated, culminating in a series of conflicts known as the Comanche Wars. The introduction of new technologies, such as firearms, and the depletion of the buffalo population ultimately contributed to the decline of Comanche power. By the late 1800s, the Comanche people were forced to relinquish their vast territories and adapt to a new way of life on reservations. Nevertheless, their warrior legacy and indomitable spirit have left an indelible mark on the history of the American West. The driving forces behind Comanche conquests. The Comanche people's rise to power was marked by a series of war raids that extended their influence and solidified their reputation as fierce warriors. These raids were fueled by various motivations, including territorial expansion, resource acquisition, and the desire to avenge past conflicts. Territorial expansion was a key driving force behind the Comanche war raids. As their population grew and their hunting grounds became increasingly scarce, the Comanche sought new territories to support their nomadic way of life. Their arrival in the southern plains of North America was a turning point in their history, as the vast grasslands and abundant buffalo herds provided ample resources for their survival. However, this new territory was not unoccupied, and the Comanche found themselves in competition with other tribes, such as the Apache and the Osage, who also relied on these lands for sustenance. The fierce competition for resources and land led to frequent clashes between the Comanche and their rivals, with war raids serving as an effective means of asserting dominance and expanding their territory. Resource acquisition was another critical motivation for the Comanche war raids. The Comanche valued horses as essential tools for hunting, warfare, and transportation, and they often conducted raids to acquire more horses from neighboring tribes or European settlements. Horses were a symbol of wealth and power in Comanche society, and their ability to obtain these valuable animals through raids reinforced their status as skilled warriors. In addition to horses, the Comanche also sought to acquire weapons, goods, and captives during their raids. The acquisition of firearms in particular played a crucial role in their ability to maintain their dominance in the region. Vengeance for past conflicts was a potent motivator for the Comanches' war raids. The Comanches' warrior culture placed a strong emphasis on honor, and any perceived slight or act of aggression against their people demanded retribution. Retaliatory raids were often carried out in response to attacks on Comanche villages, the killing of Comanche warriors, or the theft of horses and other property. A striking example of this can be seen in the story of Peter Nakona, a prominent Comanche chief who led a series of retaliatory raids against the Texas Rangers in the 1850s, following the massacre of a Comanche village by the Rangers. The Comanches' desire to avenge past conflicts sometimes extended beyond immediate retaliation, as long-standing feuds with rival tribes and European settlers fueled a cycle of violence that lasted for generations. One such example is the ongoing rivalry between the Comanche and the Apache, which originated in the early 18th century as both tribes fought for control of the southern plains. This bitter feud would persist for decades, with each side seeking to exact revenge for past losses and humiliations. Comanche Captives, the fate of the fallen. The Comanche people's war raids often resulted in the capture of prisoners, both combatants and non-combatants alike. The treatment of these captives varied widely, with some integrated into the tribe and others subjected to harsher fates. During the Comanche raids, the primary goal was often to acquire valuable resources such as horses, goods, and captives. Enemy combatants who were captured in battle were typically subdued by force, with the Comanche using their superior horsemanship and combat skills to overpower their opponents. Non-combatants, including women, children, and the elderly, were also taken captive during raids, particularly when the Comanche targeted settlements or rival tribes' villages. Upon capture, Prisoners were often forcibly marched back to the Comanche encampments, a grueling and arduous journey that could cover hundreds of miles. The captives' treatment during this time depended on various factors, including their perceived value to the tribe and the circumstances of their capture. Those who resisted or posed a threat to their captors might be subjected to harsh treatment, whereas others might be treated more leniently in the hopes of fostering cooperation. Once the captives arrived at the Comanche encampments, their fates were determined by a complex set of social and cultural factors. Women and children were often seen as valuable assets to the tribe, as they could be integrated into Comanche society, increasing the tribe's numbers and contributing to its strength. Captured women might be taken as wives by Comanche warriors, or adopted as sisters or daughters by other women in the tribe. These relationships were not always forced, and in some cases, captured women formed genuine bonds with their captors and chose to remain with the tribe. Similarly, captured children were frequently adopted into Comanche families and raised as members of the tribe. Through this process, the children would learn the Comanche language, customs, and way of life, eventually becoming indistinguishable from their captors. In some cases, these adopted children would go on to hold prominent positions within the tribe, such as the case of Cynthia Ann Parker, a European settler who was captured as a child and later became the mother of the famous Comanche leader, Quanah Parker. The fate of male captives was often less favorable, as they posed a potential threat to the tribe and were less easily integrated into Comanche society. Some male captives were subjected to harsh treatment or forced to perform menial tasks for the tribe. In certain instances, male captives who proved their worth or demonstrated valuable skills might be granted a degree of acceptance within the tribe, although this was relatively rare. Slavery, while not as prevalent as adoption, was another possible fate for captives. This practice was typically reserved for individuals who were deemed unsuitable for adoption, such as adult male captives or those who resisted integration into the tribe. These individuals were often subjected to harsh treatment and forced to perform menial labor for their captors. The Comanches' perception of slavery differed from the European concept, as it was more fluid and less rigidly defined. Slaves could sometimes earn their freedom through acts of bravery or by demonstrating loyalty to the tribe, although such instances were relatively rare. Ransom negotiations were another aspect of the captive experience in Comanche society. In some cases, the Comanche would seek to exchange their captives for valuable goods, horses, or even other captives held by rival tribes or settlers. These negotiations were often delicate and protracted affairs, with both sides attempting to maximize their gains while minimizing their losses. The outcome of these negotiations could hinge on the captive's perceived value or the relationship between the negotiating parties. A notable example of ransom negotiations occurred in 1840 when a group of Comanche leaders traveled to the Texas town of San Antonio to negotiate the release of several European captives. This meeting, known as the Council House Fight, quickly escalated into a deadly confrontation, resulting in the deaths of several Comanche chiefs and further fueling animosity between the Comanche and the Texan settlers. In the shadow of the Comanche, punishments and torments. While the Comanche people were known for their fierce warrior spirit and horse-riding prowess, it is essential to acknowledge the darker aspects of their society. The brutal methods of punishment and torture employed by the Comanche against their enemies were a reflection of the harsh realities of life on the frontier and served as a means to assert dominance and control over their rivals. Scalping, a practice often associated with the Comanche, was a form of punishment and torture that involved the removal of a portion of a person's scalp, often while they were still alive. While the origin of scalping is a matter of debate among historians, it is clear that the Comanche adopted this practice as a means of demonstrating their power and striking fear into the hearts of their enemies. The act of scalping was not unique to the Comanche, as many other Native American tribes and European settlers engaged in this practice during times of conflict. Mutilation was another form of punishment used by the Comanche, with captives or defeated enemies sometimes subjected to disfigurement, amputation, or other forms of physical attack. These acts of violence served not only as a means of exerting control over the victim, but also as a warning to others who might consider opposing the Comanche. For example, in the early 19th century, the Comanche chief Buffalo Hump led a war party against a group of Texan settlers, leaving behind a grisly scene of mutilated bodies as a testament to his warriors' ferocity. Beyond the physical, the Comanche were also known to employ psychological abuse against their captives, using fear and intimidation to break their spirits and ensure their submission. This could involve verbal threats, mock executions, or forcing captives to witness the torture of others. The psychological torment inflicted upon captives was a powerful tool, as it eroded the victim's sense of self and their will to resist. It is crucial to recognize that these brutal practices were not isolated incidents, but rather part of a larger pattern of violence that characterized life on the frontier. The Comanche, like other Native American tribes, were engaged in a constant struggle for survival, locked in a cycle of conflict and retaliation with their rivals. The use of extreme methods of punishment and torture was, in part, a response to the harsh realities of life in a world where the stakes were high and the margin for error was slim. Comanche Women: Strength, Survival, and Shadows of War. The role of women in Comanche society was multifaceted, encompassing a wide range of responsibilities and expectations. Their influence extended beyond the domestic sphere, as women were instrumental in the success of their tribe's war raids and played an active role in the treatment of prisoners. Comanche women were responsible for maintaining the home, raising children, and providing sustenance for their families. They were skilled in the arts of tanning hides, weaving, and pottery, which were essential to the tribe's survival. In addition, they often managed the tribe's horses, which were integral to the Comanche's success in warfare and hunting. During times of conflict, Comanche women played a crucial role in supporting their warriors. They would accompany war parties on their raids, providing logistical support and tending to the needs of their husbands, brothers, and sons. In some instances, women also participated in the violence that characterized these raids, as they were known to engage in the torture and humiliation of captives. This active involvement was not only a reflection of the harsh realities of life on the frontier, but also an affirmation of their strength and commitment to the tribe's survival. Women also played a significant role in caring for prisoners taken during raids, particularly those who were adopted into the tribe. As we have previously discussed, captives were often integrated into Comanche society through adoption, with women taking on the responsibility of nurturing and teaching these new members of the tribe. Through their care and guidance, women helped to ensure the successful assimilation of captives, thereby strengthening the tribe and reinforcing its social bonds. While the role of women in Comanche society was one of strength and resilience, they also faced unique challenges and dangers as a result of their involvement in the tribe's war raids. Women were not immune to the violence that marked these conflicts, and they were often subjected to the same brutal punishments and tortures as their male counterparts when captured by enemy tribes or settlers. One example of a notable Comanche woman is Weka, the wife of the famous Comanche chief Quanah Parker. Weka was known for her strength and resolve, even in the face of adversity. During a battle against the U.S. Army, Weka was captured along with her infant son. Despite the threat of execution, she managed to escape her captors, demonstrating the indomitable spirit that characterized the women of the Comanche tribe. Defiant frontiers, resisting the Comanche onslaught. The fierce and formidable Comanche raids on neighboring tribes and settlers were met with equally determined resistance and retaliation. As the Comanche expanded their territory and influence, the tribes and settlers they encroached upon employed various strategies to protect their lands and people, forging alliances and developing military tactics in response to the relentless Comanche assaults. The Comanche frequently targeted other Native American tribes such as the Apache, Wichita, and Tonkawa in their quest for territorial expansion. In response, these tribes formed alliances with one another, as well as with European settlers and the U.S. Army, in an effort to strengthen their defenses against the Comanche. These alliances were not always stable, as shifting loyalties and territorial disputes often led to internal conflicts. However, they did provide a measure of unity and coordination against a common enemy. Settlers on the frontier also faced the wrath of the Comanche, as their homesteads and communities were prime targets for raiding parties seeking resources and captives. To protect their homes and loved ones, settlers established fortified settlements and developed a network of communication to warn of impending raids. They also relied on the protection of the U.S. Army, which established a series of forts along the frontier to act as a buffer against Comanche aggression. One notable instance of resistance against the Comanche occurred in 1836 during the Texas Revolution. A group of Texan settlers led by James Fannin was besieged by a combined force of Comanche and Mexican troops at the Battle of Coleto Creek. Despite being vastly outnumbered and surrounded, the settlers fought tenaciously, eventually negotiating a surrender that allowed them to leave the battlefield unharmed. This hard-fought resistance demonstrated the resolve of the settlers and their determination to protect their land and lives. As settlers and tribes fought to defend their territory, they also sought to retaliate against the Comanche. One such example of retaliation occurred in 1839 when a group of Texas Rangers, led by Captain John "Jack" Coffee Hayes, staged a daring attack on a Comanche village. Hayes and his men infiltrated the village under cover of darkness, launching a surprise attack that resulted in the deaths of numerous Comanche warriors, as well as the capture of valuable horses and supplies. This raid served as a warning to the Comanche that their enemies were willing and able to strike back. Another notable figure in the fight against the Comanche was Colonel Ranald S. Mackenzie, a U.S. Army officer who led numerous successful campaigns against the tribe during the 1870s. Mackenzie's innovative tactics and relentless pursuit of the Comanche earned him the respect of his adversaries, who referred to him as the man who never sleeps. Under Mackenzie's leadership, the U.S. Army dealt significant blows to the Comanche, ultimately contributing to their decline as a dominant force on the southern plains. Thundering hooves and smoking barrels, the European influence on Comanche warfare. The arrival of Europeans in the Americas brought about profound changes to the lives of indigenous peoples, including the Comanche. Among the most significant of these changes were the introduction of horses and firearms, which transformed the Comanche's tactics and bolstered their reputation as a fearsome and powerful tribe. This European contact altered the frequency and scale of Comanche war raids, as the newly acquired resources provided them with the means to expand their territory and influence across the southern plains. Before their first encounters with Europeans in the late 17th century, the Comanche were a semi-nomadic tribe who relied primarily on hunting and gathering for their sustenance. The introduction of the horse, which they obtained from Spanish settlers, revolutionized their way of life, allowing them to hunt more efficiently, travel more quickly, and wage war with greater ferocity. As expert horsemen, the Comanche mastered the art of mounted warfare, striking fear into the hearts of their adversaries with their swift and coordinated raids. The Comanche's acquisition of horses granted them a tactical advantage on the battlefield, but it was the introduction of firearms that truly elevated their capacity for violence. The Spanish, and later the French and English, traded firearms with the Comanche, who quickly learned to wield these powerful weapons with deadly accuracy. With the combination of horses and firearms, the Comanche became an unstoppable force, launching raids on a scale never before seen in the region. One notable example of the devastating impact of European contact on Comanche war raids occurred in the mid-18th century, when the tribe clashed with the Spanish in a series of conflicts known as the Comanche Wars. Emboldened by their newfound prowess in battle, the Comanche repeatedly attacked Spanish settlements, stealing horses, capturing prisoners, and driving the Spanish to the brink of desperation. In response, the Spanish launched a series of counterattacks, but their efforts were largely futile against the highly mobile and well-armed Comanche warriors. The Comanche's mastery of European technology also enabled them to exert control over other indigenous tribes. They used their superior weaponry and horsemanship to expand their territory, forcing neighboring tribes to either submit to Comanche rule or face annihilation. As a result, the Comanches' sphere of influence grew, and their war raids became more frequent and far-reaching. However, the Comanches' reliance on European resources also made them vulnerable to the same forces that had initially empowered them. As they became more dependent on firearms and other European goods, they were drawn into an increasingly complex web of alliances and trade relationships. Over time, this exposure to European influence led to the erosion of traditional Comanche values and customs, as well as the introduction of diseases that ravaged their population. As the Comanches' power began to wane in the latter half of the 19th century, their once frequent and devastating war raids became less common. The encroachment of American settlers and the U.S. Army, combined with internal strife and dwindling resources, eventually brought an end to the Comanches' reign of terror on the southern plains. The setting sun, the twilight of Comanche dominance. As the 19th century progressed, the once mighty Comanche, who had dominated the southern plains for generations, began to face a series of challenges that would ultimately lead to their decline. From the relentless pressure of American settlers to the loss of territory and eventual forced relocation onto reservations, the Comanche were caught in a tempest that would forever change the course of their history. One of the most significant factors in the decline of Comanche power was the westward expansion of American settlers, who began to encroach upon the tribe's lands in search of new opportunities and resources. This influx of settlers was fueled in part by the concept of manifest destiny, which held that it was the divine right and duty of the United States to spread its influence and civilization across the continent. As the settlers pushed deeper into Comanche territory, they disrupted the tribe's traditional way of life, depleting the resources on which they depended for sustenance and survival. The arrival of American settlers also brought with it a wave of violence as the two sides clashed over land and resources. While the Comanche had once struck fear into the hearts of their enemies with their brutal war raids, they now found themselves increasingly outmatched by the superior weaponry and tactics of the U.S. Army. As their losses mounted, the Comanche were gradually forced to cede territory to the encroaching Americans. In the midst of these external pressures, the Comanche were also grappling with internal strife. The erosion of traditional customs and values, brought on by increased contact with Europeans, created divisions within the tribe. Additionally, the introduction of diseases by Europeans had a devastating impact on the Comanche population, weakening their ability to resist the ever-growing threats to their sovereignty. As the Comanches' power waned, they were increasingly pushed towards negotiation with the United States government. In a series of treaties signed throughout the mid-19th century, the Comanche agreed to cede vast tracts of land in exchange for promises of protection and provisions. However, these agreements often failed to provide the support and resources that the Comanche needed, leaving them to face further hardships. Finally, in 1875, the remaining Comanche bands were forcibly relocated onto reservations in present-day Oklahoma, signaling the end of their dominance over the southern plains. Life on the reservations was a far cry from the nomadic existence the Comanche had once known, as they were required to abandon their traditional ways in favor of farming and adopting the customs of American society. Among the Comanche leaders who attempted to navigate these turbulent times was Quanah Parker, the son of a Comanche chief and an Anglo-Texan captive. Quanah emerged as a symbol of resilience and adaptation, striving to maintain the Comanche's cultural identity in the face of overwhelming odds. As the last free-roaming Comanche chief, Quanah eventually surrendered to U.S. authorities and led his people onto the reservation. There, he worked to improve the lives of his people by advocating for education, economic opportunities, and the preservation of Comanche culture. Whispers of the Wind, exploring the Comanche language and communication. The Comanche people, known for their prowess as warriors and horsemen, have a rich and complex linguistic heritage that echoes through time. As a branch of the vast Uto-Aztecan language family, the Comanche language holds a unique place among indigenous tongues, reflecting the tribe's distinct cultural identity. Throughout history, the Comanche people have traveled far and wide, spreading their language and adapting to the linguistic landscape of the regions they traversed. The linguistic ancestors of the Comanche people originated in the Great Basin area, and over time, their language evolved and diversified as they migrated to the southern plains. The Comanche language is characterized by its intricate structure, incorporating a wealth of affixes that convey meaning and nuance. This agglutinative language allows speakers to create complex words by attaching various prefixes and suffixes, resulting in a rich and expressive vocabulary. The language's verb system is particularly fascinating, with an extensive array of conjugations that indicate tense, aspect, mood, and more. Throughout the centuries, the Comanche people developed a unique system of communication that extended beyond the spoken word. Non-verbal cues and gestures played a vital role in conveying information among the tribe members, particularly during hunting expeditions and warfare. For instance, hand signs were employed to relay messages silently and efficiently across vast distances. This mode of communication allowed for coordination and stealth, proving invaluable in the face of danger. Language is intrinsically connected to the culture and identity of the Comanche people. Their oral tradition is a testament to this, as the tribe relied on storytelling to preserve their history, values, and beliefs. Elders would pass down tales of heroes, battles, and supernatural beings to younger generations, weaving a vibrant tapestry of collective memory. The Comanche people also developed a poetic form known as the prairie song. These melodic compositions celebrated the beauty of nature, the strength of their warriors, and the virtues of their society. The haunting melodies of prairie songs have echoed across the plains for generations, a testament to the enduring spirit of the Comanche people. The arrival of European settlers brought new linguistic influences to the Comanche people. As they engaged in trade and diplomacy with various European powers, the Comanche people adapted their language to accommodate new words and concepts. This linguistic exchange resulted in a fascinating blend of Comanche and European vocabulary, reflecting the dynamic and ever-changing nature of human communication. In the modern era, the Comanche language faces the challenges of globalization and cultural assimilation. With fewer than 1,000 fluent speakers remaining, efforts are underway to preserve and revitalize the language for future generations. The Comanche Nation has initiated various language programs, providing resources and educational materials to teach the younger members of the tribe. These efforts are vital in ensuring that the Comanche language, a treasure trove of history and culture, endures and flourishes. Echoes of the Plains, the Comanche in the realm of popular culture. The vast and fascinating history of the Comanche people has captured the imagination of countless artists, writers, and filmmakers, weaving a complex web of portrayals in the realm of popular culture. Through various mediums, such as literature, film, and art, the Comanche tribe has been immortalized, shaping public perception and understanding of their history and culture. One of the earliest depictions of the Comanche in literature can be traced back to the 19th century, when tales of their bravery and prowess as warriors captivated audiences across the United States. Writers like Zane Grey, in his novel The Thundering Herd, portrayed the Comanche as skilled horsemen and fierce adversaries, painting a vivid picture of life on the plains. These portrayals, while based on historical accounts, often simplified the complexities of Comanche culture, casting them as both heroes and villains in the eyes of readers. In the realm of film, the Comanche tribe has been featured prominently in various Western movies, a genre that has dominated American cinema for decades. Perhaps one of the most well-known depictions of the Comanche people in film is John Ford's 1956 classic, The Searchers, starring John Wayne. The film, which centers around the search for a kidnapped girl taken by the Comanche, has been praised for its stunning cinematography and powerful performances. However, the movie has also been criticized for perpetuating stereotypes and presenting a one-dimensional view of the Comanche people. Another notable representation of the Comanche in film is the 2012 movie The Lone Ranger, which features the character Tonto, a fictional Comanche sidekick portrayed by Johnny Depp. The film sparked controversy over its depiction of Native Americans, particularly with Depp's portrayal of Tonto. Critics argued that the character perpetuated harmful stereotypes and failed to authentically represent the Comanche culture. In the world of art, the Comanche people have been a subject of fascination for painters and illustrators who have strived to capture the essence of their culture on canvas. Artists like George Catlin and Charles Russell documented the Comanche way of life in the 19th and early 20th centuries, offering glimpses into their customs and traditions. These artistic portrayals, while visually stunning, often romanticized the Comanche people, contributing to a larger narrative that simplifies their experiences and disregards their struggles. In recent years, there has been a growing movement to challenge and re-evaluate these portrayals, with artists, writers, and filmmakers striving to present more authentic and accurate representations of the Comanche people. This shift in popular culture is vital in fostering a deeper understanding of the tribe's rich history and culture, allowing their stories to be told with the respect and complexity they deserve. As we journey through the intriguing and complex world of the Comanche people, we have uncovered a rich tapestry of their history, culture, and the myriad ways they have been immortalized in popular culture. The echoes of their legacy continue to reverberate through time, serving as a testament to their resilience and adaptability in the face of adversity. Let us leave you with a thought-provoking quote by the esteemed Comanche chief Ten Bears, who once said, "My people have never drawn a line between his heart and the hearts of other people." This quote reminds us that, despite the vast chasm of time and cultural differences, the essence of our shared humanity transcends all boundaries. As we bid farewell to the world of the Comanche, we encourage you to reflect upon the stories and the lessons they offer, inspiring us to cultivate empathy, understanding, and an appreciation for the rich tapestry of human history that we all share.